Click the links to join the channel, or the various other links. Keep this headline in mind because you can go find this movie online. It's by Sony, so I don't know who hosts their content, but I mean, if you look around, you can find it. All you need to do is go watch the first 5 minutes of it, and if you haven't seen it or you want to be refreshed, it's well worth watching. Just the first 5 minutes of it. That's all you need because okay, she has this narrative, and then you just go watch those. For I wish we could watch it together on YouTube, but they don't allow that kind of thing. Though they used to back in the day. It's insane. It's unwatchable. The first opening scene is she's with some guy, the super spy Charlie's Angels girl is with some guy. At least he's Asian, which is a little bit weird. Nowadays he'd probably be blonde hair, blue eyed. But then the guy in the next scene was blonde hair, so that was a little bit. And the point being, both these guys are just insufferable, cliche sexists from like 19, just the worst Hollywood 1970s kind of just cliche on top of cliche type of sexism. She gives us very thinly veiled lecture on just every kind of talking point nonsense, which is great. I'm not saying you don't have valid concerns. Yeah, for sure you do, but it's like I've said this before. You can't hit every talking point in a movie or in a comic or in something because that's just propaganda. If you want to make, you can make a movie that's entertainment because that's what they're supposed to be. And if you want to have one little point in the movie that takes it out of entertainment to have something, give you something to think about, that's all you can hope for. You can't have the opening 30 seconds. She's sitting down at dinner with this guy, and he's just being just cliche after cliche. It's like, even I don't think there's even feminist chicks who would like they'd watch that after the first minute and like this is kind of heavy handed. And then the scene transitions is like, okay, it's an action scene, and then there's this little music video with a bunch of chicks in it and girls and like celebrating girls skating and archery. And it's like, oh, okay, this is the first 3 minutes of the movie, and this is this heavy handed. There's no point to watch any of it. Anyway, so she has this insane narrative of the movie was marketed just for girls. It doesn't matter how it's marketed. You could go watch the first 5 minutes. I mean, you can go to Soul or 1, 2, 3 if you're curious. So the top ones are the original 70s version, which had a certain look to them. I gotta say, I don't recall. It was before my time. I don't think I've even seen it in reruns. And then this one is the remake with three chicks. I don't remember the names of. This chick's the one who's in Adam Sandler. I'm pointing to the screen like you can see it on the screen capture. She's in all the Adam Sandler movies, and she's great. They're all good. She was in Lucy. Again, I'm pointing to the screen like an idiot. Why am I doing this? The Lucy Liu character was in Ally McBeal and a bunch of other stuff. And Cameron Diaz at the time was a huge actor. She had been in a bunch of comedies. So the original, the original 1970s, you got three hot chicks, and in the remake, you've got three hot chicks, hot in different ways. And then in the remake, you have, okay, yes, I'm sure they're like, anyone can be portrayed a certain way. Like, these chicks have everything in the right place. They're thin, and like everything's fine, everything's in the right place, but it depends how things are portrayed. Presented is the word I'm looking for. Okay, so you've got Jesse Smollett's sister in the center. Yeah, it's not her fault, her brother's an idiot. But then you got Kristen Stewart on the right with the short hair. That doesn't, well, actually, I guess the original chick has short hair. At least she's smiling, at least kind of half smiling. But it's a whole different look. Like the original short hair, God, those are some horrible 70s haircuts. Now that I look at them, that kind of, I don't know what they call that, the feathered, and just like, the two girls have got their hair just totally blown. It's like 4 inches away from her head. That's a lot of volume on that hair. The thing is, it's a whole different presentation. Okay, this again, pointing at the screen like an idiot. The, I guess, Latina chick on the left. At least she's smiling. She's got kind of a sexy presentation to her. But the other two chicks, dude, not at all. Just the short hair Kristen Stewart thing. But it's not just short-haired. It's spiked in that way that says she's probably wears Birkenstocks, drives a Volvo, loves Martina Navratilova, and you know what I'm saying? A lot of scissoring going on. And the other chick in the center, Jesse Smollett's sister. I mean, there's nothing special about the two chicks on the right, and they're angry looking, and they look like they're either pains in the asses. They're not happy to be there. She looks like an elf with the hair and the ears. It's just a whole weird presentation. Okay, so the Tina chick on the left, at least she looks good. But anyway, the original chicks, it's like what are you selling here? Oh, Elizabeth Banks in 2019. I can't possibly sell sex, or not. It's not that might even be overstating it, but it's like, can you possibly sell a fun movie? That's probably a fair. More make sure my tabs are okay. Yeah, because sometimes they're not. Yeah, that's watch Charlie's Angels on Solar. I mean, assuming it's legal to do in your area. And anyway, so like these are the this is meant to sell you on it. This is a whole different. This isn't selling me on anything. Look at the original. Look how much fun the original is, and then look at this. You have three. At least the Smollett chick is tall. She's probably a model or something. But these other chicks, they look tiny. You have three chicks who are like 100 pounds doing just the most. No, there's not very few badass moments in the movie. Now, okay, the remake, the Willing Suspension of Disbelief with those three girls doing a bunch of like taekwondo, just most ridiculous stuff on the wire work. We get that, but it's like that was 20 years ago, and it was played for campiness, and you had three really hot chicks who were also smiling and putting off an entirely different vibe. This vibe is different, and like most people won't kind of say this kind of stuff. They'll just lie to, like, they're in this echo chamber where nobody is just honest with them and says, yeah, this isn't just say what I just said. It's like you gotta have three hot chicks who look like they're having fun in the movie and that they like the opposite sex. Oh no, we couldn't possibly do that because they're I don't know, whatever is like the current gender, non whatever otherkin. The girls who like girls should sell just as well. It's like, yeah, but it wouldn't. I mean, why would it? Most people, 99% of the audience can't identify with that. Why would you think it would sell just as well? Look at the presentation of this. She got the Aloha shirt on and the short hair spiked up. I mean, what is she supposed to be presenting there? What is that? What is the image that she's really selling there? And then the other two chicks, Smollett is a mix, and the other girl, I don't know Latin, but so who are you trying to sell it to? Oh well, if we cover all our bases, we can sell to everyone. Yeah, that's really not the way it works. You think that way? The original chicks were three hot chicks of a certain group, and then the remake, Lucy Liu was whatever she is, but the other two chicks, you're selling to the biggest audience that way. To the audience, Asian and European are going to be your biggest. There's a study I just saw the other day that talks about like who people find most attractive, and it's Asian women and European women. So that is what it is. So in terms of marketing, you start to say like, you're limiting your audience by including like the people who are not going to be the highest draw for the biggest collection of your audience. And then the short hair chick with this, like, not just short hair, it's short hair that looks like she's saving up to buy a Harley Davidson or something. It's like, why? Again, you're limiting your audience even more, so you have all these Venn diagrams that start to push together of ways to. It's the wrong kind of Venn diagram because you're finding ways that things that exclude the audience, and what you're left with is, oh, not very much because the movie completely bombed. So then she seems to forget that the movie's still out there. It's I don't know where Sony broadcasts their films on, but I mean, like I said, you can find it online on other more nefarious sites with a lot of pop up ads. Just goes, it was a story was I was creating some feminist manifesto. I was just making an action movie. I would have liked to make Mission Impossible. Yeah, but you're not. I mean, you're not that. You don't have that name and that reputation for making those kind of things. And no, just because it starred women and she's a female director, it was a feminist manifesto because you can go watch the first 5 minutes. I didn't realize it's 2 hours long. Maybe I'll go watch it after this, and maybe it gets better. But it's like the first page of a book. The first page is you've got to grab people by the balls and make them want to read more. The first 30 seconds of this is one of the characters. I think she's wearing a Farrah Fawcett type of wig, the feathered and the layers and all that kind of stuff, like reminiscent of the original '70s kind of vibe. And she looks cool, but she's with surprisingly, I think, a Japanese guy who's just every sexist stereotype. That's the first spoken line, is him talking about, oh, you wouldn't want to hang drywall, and you wouldn't want to do whatever, put in tile or something. It's like, yeah, most women don't do that. Most women don't hang drywall and put in tile. It's just the realities, not because they wouldn't necessarily be good at it, but I mean, even for little considerations of life in the real world, like, would you want to be working on a house alone, you know, or something like that, like a site, you know, alone, something like it's just a different consideration, and like the reality is, yeah, most women don't want to do that kind of stuff. It's just for whatever reason they're not drawn into. Oh yeah, I want to be a plumber. Are there female plumbers? Are there women who do interior of homes and put up fences? Yeah, for sure. Not. I mean, now that I think about it, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. You'd more likely to find someone who gets their real estate license and goes into that side of it, because that's just the real world for of many different reasons. So, like, to put a scene on this, like, oh yeah, you're lecturing us about a unicorn. Like, the guy was a jerk, but he's just saying the very obvious things about, oh, you wouldn't want to drive a taxi. And that's, I mean, there's a lot to be said on that. And you start thinking about it, like, do women drive taxis? I don't really know if they drive taxis. Maybe Uber's kind of a different story, because now you got cameras in the car, and you can check people out before you pick them up. But no, you probably wouldn't want to have a woman drive a taxi. Like, no, that's just, the real world is just too risky, unless you're, you're in a certain, unless you're in some countries in Europe where it would be safe. But no, in America, no, you're not going to, females not going to drive a taxi, just for the simple simple something that can happen to a woman that is not likely to happen to men. It's like, oh yeah. So he said, like, it was kind of a straw man argument to have him say the things that no reasonable woman would want to do, because in fact, in the very real world, they don't actually do these things just for safety considerations, or just for lack of interest, like the hanging drywall. I'm starting to think about it. I'm thinking, like, oh yeah, women probably, do they do interiors? Maybe, man, maybe, but like this, the thing of like, it's just not that likely, because as you get into it, you get into it young, and you're doing it with other people, like, a friend of a friend or someone's dad, and you get into it that way. It's just not that likely that you would, it would be a little dangerous, and it would just, it's just not something they're into. So it's like the whole argument, it's a straw man argument to make men look bad, which, a little bit refreshing, because the guy was Asian and was a little bit different. But it's like, oh, you created this super unlikable character that the audience hates, and for some reason then you made the women just even more unlikable, because I realized, oh, you set up the straw man argument to force the audience to listen to this feminist garbage that Elizabeth Banks, or whoever the hell was writing this, is writing this kind of nonsense. Like, oh, okay, we get it. You hate men. This is the first 5 minutes of the show. It's not a feminist manifesto, buddy. If I could show you the first 5 minutes, I could show you. Would you like to sit down and watch the first 5 minutes? Oh, well, we're just, and then after that, there's a scene of all the chicks are roller skating and they're archery. Yeah, we get it. Why would you put this in a movie? Oh, because it's not a movie. It's propaganda. Yeah, that's why I made $8 million opening weekend, which I don't know what the budget was, but it was probably a pretty decent sized budget. Anyway, so I guess she's, I don't know, maybe sniffing around. Like, if I were her, I probably wouldn't want to bring attention to this. Sony, they also did Ghostbusters 2016, right? That was Sony. So why would you go from Ghostbusters, which actually I don't think was a huge bomb. I think it was, I think it underperformed. I don't think it technically bombed, which meant it lost money. Where Charlie's Angels actually, well, they had a bigger name behind it. Ghostbusters is a bigger name than Charlie's Angels, but Charlie's Angels, I think I actually did lose money, and that's all on Banks's shoulders. Anyway, this annoyed me. Like, this whole everything time they do this kind of stuff, it just annoys me. They make something is gonna suck, because it's not a movie, it's effing propaganda, and then they go, oh well, the customers didn't buy it. Yeah, why didn't women go see the movie? They never answer you. Why didn't women go see these movies that are marketed for women? Or even if they're just movies, they're action adventure movies. You go, oh, well, they're marketed to men. It's men. Well, we don't want to lecture on feminism? Why would we? Like with these straw man, like, you can make, the only way to put this in there, you can have the guy, like, if you want to, the thing is this, you can't have it in the opening. Gee, for the love of God. It's got to be like midway in the movie. One scene where the guy says something insensitive, and it's like he doesn't understand what he doesn't understand. Like, guys do that all the time, and women do that all the time too. You just don't know what you don't know about. Like, you're talking about women in makeup, something, I don't know, just something that you just, or more personal than that, but like, you just don't know what you don't know, because you don't live that life. But you know, both sexes do it to each other both the time. It's like you would be. I mean, if you're, I know you're male listening to this. It's like you're male listening to this. You know, women have said things that are just show that they have no idea what it's like. Like, gee, why do men die younger than women? Why are men on the streets homeless? Why are men addicted to drugs and like why do they have these much harsher lives? And then you know, women say things like, "Oh, we're treated so unfairly," and you're looking at some guy in the summer who's like putting on a roof for this girl who's you know overpaid because she's a pretty young secretary, and it's like, yeah, this it must really be horrible for you not to, you know, be 100 degrees in Arizona putting on a roof. Yeah, that's rough. You're inside an air-conditioned office all day, but some guy whistled at you. Oh my, the horror. I can't imagine what that. Some guy's having a heat stroke on the roof, or, you know, moving 80-pound bags of concrete. It's like, yeah, it's a whole different experience, and women just don't do that kind of stuff. And that's like just a mild example. I mean, it's just like you get the idea. It goes on and on and on, especially with court systems, stuff like that. Anyway, this kind of stuff is just, it's just annoying. But if you're, I mean, I realize now the audience listening to this is, you know, of the 79 people who will listen to this, it's 77 are going to be male. But you know what I'm talking about. You absolutely, and you know, it goes both ways. Men do it to women too. Like, what do you mean PMS? Just walk it off. Just take an aspirin or something. You'll be fine. She's like hobbled in a corner crying, like just bent over, just trying not to die. It's like, oh, what are you crying for? Wait, what? You just want to cry, and then you get the idea. It goes both ways. But like woke people don't want to understand this. And it's like at one point we were going in this direction. It seems like before Obama, we're going in a direction of people like we're trying to understand things, and then we kind of like that ship has sailed, unfortunately. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next episode.